Hi, everybody. Everybody in the room and everybody who's online. It's great, first of all, to see you all here today, and those of you we can't see, including all of you joining us remotely, for a discussion on sustainability and climate action at Berkeley. Today's presentation is part of a Spring Staff Appreciation Week. This week's about honoring and advancing the contribution of our 9,000 staff members, who we truly, truly appreciate. This week offers an opportunity to raise our commitment to staff and to support your career path at UC. I believe working at Berkeley is rich and rewarding, and I'll say it's fun. It's fun for me, at least. It's important to me that our staff have the opportunity to experience their work in this way too, and I hope that you have as much fun in your careers as I have had in the UC. Making our campus environmentally sustainable and addressing the climate change impacts of our operations is one of my top priorities. It's something that's been an important part of my work, first at UCLA, then UC Santa Barbara, and now here at Berkeley. Helping to ensure that the environment is front and center in our decision making is something many of you care about and prioritize as well. I see staff finding new and creative ways to reduce our footprint every day while improving processes, carefully managing resources, and making our business better all around. UC Berkeley and the UC system have pledged to be carbon neutral from building and fleet energy use by 2025. This is a big challenge, and many of us have been working really hard on this issue for a number of years. And other sources as well, including water and waste-related carbon emissions by 2050. So these are big goals, and it will take all of us to meet those goals. There are two broad categories of strategies we're using to get us to net zero carbon. Strategies on the institutional level are things like energy efficiency, using renewable energy, building zero net carbon buildings, and transitioning our fleet to all electric. Then there's behavioral or cultural change strategies, and these are actions each of us can take to save energy and water, get our organic materials into composting bins, walk, bicycle, take public transit, use video conferencing, and more. We can take these actions to reduce Berkeley's carbon footprint 5 to 10%. I think this is one of the most interesting challenges in the world of sustainability, is how to change behavior. So, starting April 1st and running through the end of the month, we can all show just how much individually and collectively we can shed our carbon emissions in the Cool Campus Challenge. This is a friendly online competition. I'm going to emphasize competition. We want to win. At least I would like for us to win between UC campuses, because last year or 2 years ago, Irvine won, and I'm still upset about that, to see which campus pledges to reduce its carbon footprint the most. It's a healthy competition. You'll learn more about how to sign up and bring the title of Coolest UC home to Berkeley. Today, you're in great hands, both to hear about what we're doing and how far we've come, and crucially, how you can engage even more. Our speakers are Director of Sustainability, Kara Stoll, and Berkeley's Carbon Neutrality Student Fellows, Dante Gonzalez and Sage Lanier, who will be sharing their creative learning and action programs. Kara is a longtime champion and my hero of sustainability, now 18 years at Berkeley, leading initiatives to reduce our carbon footprint. Have fun, be part of the Cool Campus Challenge, and join us in getting to zero. Please welcome Kira, Dante, and Sage. Thank you.
All right, so this is Staff Appreciation, March 2019, and today we're going to talk to you about how we are going to try and get to zero carbon and how we can all do this together. So here we are and here we are, not in the same order. But just wanted to mention here, and Dante and Sage are going to be sharing their work today as well, that part of getting to zero in carbon neutrality is about all of us working together. So there is a lot of work to do. It's a critical issue. It's something Berkeley takes seriously. It's something the University of California is taking seriously. And we also know that our future is our students, and there's been an effort across UC to have students in leadership roles as Carbon Neutrality Initiative Fellows, and so that's the role that Sage and Dante have taken on with us, and I think you're going to really love hearing about their work. We're going to share a little bit about what we've been doing over the last 10 years or more around addressing climate-related issues. All right, but first, our audience here is going to try and help us answer some questions. So this is your time to yell some things out. So how many miles each year do you think we travel for business, air travel for business, faculty, staff, and students for business and research? A, B, or C? You got it. It's C. That's 100 million miles. So if you kind of want to put that in perspective, that's about 209 round-trip miles to the moon, and then a few more times around the globe, and then a driving trip to Georgia. So we travel a lot of miles each year. All right. Our electricity footprint, UC Berkeley, how much electricity do we use every year? A, B, or C? B. So again, we're up in those hundreds of millions kilowatt hours. So if you kind of look at it in perspective, we use about what 33,000 homes in California use every year for electricity. And then the last one, we have a Green Department program. How many employees do you think have been engaged in the Green Department program on campus? A, B, or C? It's B. So we think about 4,400 people have been kind of touched by those who have taken on Green Department activities, and we've got about 30 departments that have certified, and we're looking to do kind of another round of trying to get a group of departments that want to certify this year. So if that sounds like something of interest to you, please reach out and let me know. All right, so I usually start with this slide because I think it's always good to have perspective on who we are and how big we are. We really operate like a small city, as one of our guests today has already mentioned. So about 57,000 people here on campus. We manage 16.5 million square feet of building space. And we're the oldest UC campus. And so, some of our buildings are quite old. And when we talk about trying to become more efficient, use our resources better, it's also important to think about how old some of our buildings are and the time that they were built, and some of the challenges we have in terms of transforming those buildings into kind of modern, contemporary, efficient buildings. So we have carbon neutrality goals, but let me first just talk carbon neutrality. What does that mean? It means there's a variety of definitions. When we talk about carbon neutrality, what we're talking about is trying to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions or the carbon emissions from our campus operations and administrative actions. And when we say carbon neutral, we say our long-term goal is that we will actually have zero carbon emissions or very little carbon emissions associated with what we're doing on campus. But that we can also take measures in the interim, because that's a big jump to make, that we can also offset those carbon emissions through mechanisms like carbon offsets or investing in other projects that reduce those carbon emissions. So we use carbon neutrality because in the near term we think we're going to need to use those carbon offsets. In the longer term, we're going to bring our operations emissions down. Goals. These are UC system-wide goals. So we think about what Berkeley's doing, and then we think about what we're doing system-wide. 10 campuses, 5 medical centers, all of the reserves. Hundreds of thousands of people are involved in the university. So we can have a big impact, and that's one of the reasons a lot of leadership is happening around that. So Mark mentioned our carbon neutrality goal. We have a carbon neutrality goal for 2025, just around the corner. And that is from the energy we use in our buildings and from the fuel we use in our fleet. So that's one piece of the pie. Then we have a goal that what we call kind of scope 3 emissions, which is everything else. It can be it's transportation, it's what waste we send to the landfill, it's the energy we use to transport water, it's the emissions from our sewage treatment. There's a whole scope in there, and we're aiming for 2050 for carbon neutrality for that, or sooner if we can do a goal. So we have a UC Sustainable Practices policy, and there's some enabling elements in that keep evolving. 2 of them that are super important for carbon neutrality are that beginning in July 2019, any building project that the campuses do or any large renovation, something more than $5 million, where we're doing a pretty extensive renovation to a building, they will need to be zero net carbon buildings. So our first question is, can we disconnect that building from natural gas and electrify it? And if we can't do that, or we won't be doing that, how will we get to zero net? How do we offset those emissions from that? So we're trying to address that growth problem through this. So an electrification, I just wanted to mention electrification, why that? Natural gas, you burn it, you combust it, there's greenhouse gas emissions associated with it. Same with electricity, but the state of California, and many people are moving this direction. They're saying if we can electrify our energy program, we can much more rapidly have carbon-free energy from the electricity through that. So that's why we're looking at the electrification. We also have energy goals. I'll talk a little bit more about what the energy efficiency goals are. We're looking at biogas replacement for the natural gas. That's a clean natural gas replacement, and we're looking at on-site renewables. And when we buy electricity, we're looking at where we can buy it and can we procure clean energy. All right, so that was a long explanation, but kind of will help frame what we're doing next. So this is what our carbon footprint looks like at the Berkeley campus. We emit about 190,000 metric tons of CO2, and I didn't do a good calculation there on how that compares to something else, but it's a lot. You can see we divide it into scopes, not so important in the scheme of things, except for scope 1 and 2 is what is in that 2025 carbon neutrality goal. And what you see in the blue there, that's almost all the building, around the building energy that we use. So the electricity we use, the steam we use to heat, and some natural gas. Scope 2 is the electricity we buy now from other providers, and Scope 3 encompasses the rest of this. Every year we do a greenhouse gas emissions inventory. We track these to see where we're at and be able to gauge our progress. So this is our kind of 10-source world. So 80%, to get to 2025, zero net carbon or carbon neutrality, that's 80% of the greenhouse gas emissions we track on an annual basis that we want to get down to zero. So just a little history. We've been at this for a while. 2007, we set our first target to get to 1990 levels. By 2014, we reached that target. We've also been seeing that our energy intensity has been going down per square foot, even though we've been growing. And we've been producing climate planning frameworks. We update those periodically to kind of guide where we're going forward. These are all available on the sustainability website, along with a lot of other information I'm going to be talking about today. So what are our actions? Green building. Green building is, I mentioned that, going forward, we're going to be trying to do zero net carbon building. But we've also, over the last about 15 years, been using guidance through LEED, which is an international kind of green building standard for building, to guide what we're doing in our buildings. So as of now, we've done 20 projects, buildings or renovations, that have been LEED certified, either silver, gold, or platinum. And that represents about 12% of our square footage. So we're making progress, kind of moving those forward. Just to note, that's Berkeley Way, the big picture. That's the newest building we've opened in downtown Berkeley. That building does have natural gas. Everything is mostly electrified. We have a little bit of natural gas going to that building to do domestic water heating. So it's getting close to a zero net carbon building. Chu Hall, which is at the Haas School of Business, just got certified LEED Platinum, which is the highest level you can get, and it's also the first academic building in the country to be certified zero waste. So if you go in that building, you will find no landfill bins, and you will find a lot of people educating you about reusing, reducing, doing composting. It's a pretty fabulous building. Check it out. Other actions we're doing, so we have done some solar PV installations on campus. We've got 6 sites now. And we are in a process right now of going out to bid to do another round. So we hope to double or triple what we have in the next few years in terms of solar on campus. Some of these, that's Rec Sports, MLK, Rec sports again. And then down at University Village, we put in a carport structure down there. There's almost 1,000 units down, family units in Albany Village, our family housing. And those solar panels provide about 20% of the electricity needs for that building. So it's a big array. Saving energy has been the cornerstone, really, or energy efficiency has been the cornerstone of our programs over the last decade. We've done hundreds of projects. Those have ranged from doing lighting retrofits. I think when I started here at Berkeley, we were doing a lighting retrofit, getting to more efficient fluorescence. Now we're going through the campus again, and we're retrofitting the campus with LED lighting. Cost is right, much more efficient. So that's like an example of the kind of institutional energy efficiency. We do other things like tuning buildings up, making sure that all the mechanical equipment is working well together and synchronized, because it gets out of sync, and that gets the buildings running more efficient. And there's lots of other projects that the energy office is doing and the facility services, which would be, if you do this again, maybe another very interesting talk to hear about all of the work that they're doing. 137, maybe more, of our campus buildings are connected to a real-time electricity dashboard. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's pretty cool. And this way you can kind of see real-time what's happening in your building. You can do contests. You can compare yourselves to other buildings. You can see what happens when we go on a curtailment or on a weekend. It's also a tool that we use to find out when there's a problem, because you can see over time, and then you see some sort of strange blip in that, then we can go in and investigate. And we've actually found a lot of energy saving practices through that. Transportation, so the fleet transportation falls into our 2025 category. Our commute transportation falls into our 2050 goal category. But we kind of look at them together. We look at how much fuel are we burning in that ground transportation area. We are actually today using 25% less fossil fuels in our commute and our fleet than we were in 1990, so 25 years ago. Some of that is we've got many more people doing alternative or sustainable transportation modes. We've greened our fleet. About 35% of our fleet is either high efficiency hybrid vehicles, or we're starting to transition to alternative fuels. And we have an opportunity in the next 5 years, as a lot of the fleet starts to turn over, to try and replace those with much more efficient or fuel efficient vehicles. So as you kind of think about our fleet, a lot of departments own vehicles, and as they start to think about what are we going to do next, there's some real opportunity here to do that. Still close to 60% of our students, they commute by walking. So bravo for that. And 80% of our faculty, staff, and students do something other than driving alone in their commute. And that's a much higher rate than you're going to see in most of the Bay Area. So our action in saving water and waste, there's many reasons to save water, and there's many reasons to reduce our waste, and there's a lot of environmental impacts in both of those areas. But we also like to look at it under the carbon umbrella. It kind of creates that denominator across a lot of our environmental areas where we can look at our different impacts and be able to track them on an annual basis that way. So we've been doing water saving projects, a lot of them domestic. When we go into a building to do a retrofit, we're putting in much more efficient fixtures. New buildings all are meeting code or better. So we've been able to reduce our water use by about 30%, I think was the last I looked in the last 10 years, through those efficiency measures and people saving water. And waste, similarly, we've seen a drop in the amount of materials that are going to the landfill, and probably about a third as well in the last 10 years. So that's a lot of actions around diversion and people thinking about what to do with their waste. All right, changing conditions, and as we're kind of trying to think forward, what are we going to do? Where are our challenges and where are our big opportunities? So the campus, we get about 90% of our energy now from an on-campus natural gas cogeneration plant. Anybody know where that is? If you don't, you can walk right by it. It's a small building just north of Haas Pavilion. It's like a 1920s kind of concrete building. There you see it, and you'll see steam coming out the top of it. So that plant produces steam, which we use on campus to heat and do some lab processes, and it produces electricity as well. And it's all natural gas produced. So when we ended up having a third party operate that for us for a number of years, and we were buying our electricity from the utility, and the utility was providing us much cleaner electricity than the natural gas electricity we're getting there. But for operational reasons, we kind of needed to take that plant back under our wing and run it ourselves. So that's one piece of it. It's old. It was built in 1985. We've got old boilers. So it's something that it's an asset that we have to do something with in the next decade or sooner. So we have a real opportunity here to think about getting off of natural gas in full or getting off of it in part. And we're doing some technical studies right now. It's a big dollar item, so that's going to be a financial piece that we're looking at as we look at what technical solutions there might be. So it's our big opportunity and our challenge. So this is kind of our current strategy to get to carbon neutrality by 2025. This assumes that we're going to continue to use that cogeneration plant, that we haven't made that change yet. Efficiency, the big green bar there, we're going to step up the efficiency that we're doing in our buildings. We're trying to reduce the energy intensity of our energy intensity per square foot by 2% annually starting this year. So that's quite a bit of energy efficiency projects we're going to be looking at. Biogas, I mentioned, that's a procurement process. Whether we can find biogas on the market at an affordable rate will determine how much biogas we can put in the mix to offset what we're burning in terms of natural gas in that cogeneration plant. And then these carbon offset mechanisms. So that's the picture now. In the longer run, if we're able to make some big leap with our energy system, which I'm positive we can, what you'll see is that biogas and that carbon offset piece will go away, and we will be using clean electricity. All right, so how do we get to a climate smart future? That's part of it, the energy system. Really everything that we do and that we can make in terms of our decision making as staff is huge. Generally, staff at Berkeley stay here for a number of years. We're dedicated, we're experienced, we can make a lot of decisions on a day-to-day and annual basis that can change how we're doing business. So I think it's really important that we recognize even all of those strategies I just talked about, a good amount of that is staff doing the work and thinking about how to be innovative and creative on being more energy efficient, or how can we procure more renewable energy, and is it cost effective, and how do we get more materials into the composting stream. So I can't say enough at how important I think all of us are as staff to making this happen. And providing that leadership. So keep doing it and get involved. We mentioned the Cool Campus Challenge. They're going to talk about it. But there's lots of ways. Learn about your own carbon footprint. Stay in touch with our office. We do newsletters. We've got social media. We can take you on a sustainability walking tour. There's a Chancellor's Advisory Committee on Sustainability that's open to people. So there's lots of ways to engage, and feel free to reach out to me. So with that, I'm going to turn this talk over to Sage and Dante so that you can hear about some of the really great actions that they're taking.
Hello. Ooh, okay, my mic's on. Great. Okay. So I am going to talk really quickly about student climate action through education, just some of the things that we're doing here on campus as students to make a huge impact in the communities that we're working through. So just pull up my notes really quick. Okay, so here at Berkeley, Berkeley is unique in that it offers a subset of courses where students can create and teach their own classes to other students, and these are called decals. So I personally wrote a decal a year ago now called Zero Waste Solutions for a Sustainable Future. I started off my first semester 25 students, and then the next semester I had 50, and this semester the registrar maxed me out at 85, even though I had over 300 people try to sign up. So there's clearly a huge demand for information of this type right now. So the motivation behind creating this course was initially very simple. I wanted to teach people how to reduce their waste. But as the curriculum grew and the enrollment increased, I realized that it needed to be so much more than that. So we have a population of people right now who understand nothing about the planetary systems that support them. The vast majority of people know nothing about, for example, where food comes from, or where waste goes, or how the shelves of supermarkets come to be filled with food and things that will eventually end up as waste. The biggest thing, though, is that we purchase without thinking, we throw away without thinking, and we think that that's all we're doing. But when you make purchases and discards, you are funding and facilitating an entire economy based on resource extraction, production, distribution, consumption, and disposal. This is a linear system, and we live on a finite planet. You cannot run a linear system on a finite planet indefinitely, and this whole system is fueled by fossils. So we lack understanding of the resource limitations and we lack understanding of our resource limitations and what's really going down on this planet and who's causing it. But I think that a lot of people are also terrified or almost paralyzed of this buzzword climate change. Everything that the scientific community is saying right now sounds a lot like the end is nigh, and like everybody is being told like wake up and do something without being really told what something there is to do, except for make a sign and go to a protest to beg your legislators to do something. So I too, for a really long time, didn't know what something was. And so I came to Berkeley searching for the truth about everything. And I found it. That's not to say that I've fully acquired it yet. I'm in the process of shoving the truth about everything into my brain. But I do know where it is. So we made some serious progress. And so then my next goal was to give the truth about everything to everyone. And so I wrote this course, and it's expanded so much. And I have some of my curriculum topics up here. We start out with the science of modern landfills, kind of a little bit of what we just covered, because I really want to emphasize that there is no away when you throw something away. We do the history of trash. We talk about personal waste reduction and how to reduce your waste, but then we're over and we're done with that and we're moving on. We do the circular economy and cradle-to-cradle design to remake the way we make things. We talk about our food system and how it's become industrialized, climate change and politics, and what sustainable, happy cities and landscapes and architecture look like for moving forward into a world in which we're dealing with climate change but living in it still. So this curriculum, this course that I wrote, is built for the average person. It has extremely accessible information for dealing with and managing climate change and the resource limitations that we're going to be up against. So this course now exists to fill a gap in not only UC Berkeley's curriculum offerings, but in our collective discourse and understanding of the world. I like to call it an everything you need to know about the planet 101. Sorry, I got so distracted. I have here on my slide some key takeaways that one of my students contributed during the weekly discussion assignment. So my greatest ambition is to educate a community large enough to educate the world so that we can do the work that we need to get done. And I'm already seeing those impacts. Many of my students tell me personally the ways in which the knowledge they've gained has impacted their own lives and how they take it to their families, their friends, and communities. A lot of them have decided to go into different or modified career tracks because of the knowledge they've gained in our course. I have, for example, someone who's a biochemistry major who now wants to work on fungus as the future of plastic, and someone who's going into product design who, when I talked about cradle-to-cradle design, read voraciously the book Cradle to Cradle by the German chemist and American architect who wrote it. Don't remember their names. And wants to work on remaking the way we make things so that they're no longer designed for landfill. So I'm kind of talking about this curriculum in a very abstract way. So allow me, for the purpose of tying climate action and waste together, to share one climate-related insight that I've gained in my search for the truth about everything. So landfills are the third largest source of methane emissions in the United States. Methane is 30 times more potent of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. The reason that landfills are the third largest source of methane is because when you throw organic material like food waste or lawn trimmings into landfill, they do not decompose and they undergo anaerobic respiration, creating methane. So they are a huge contributor to greenhouse gases. And if you're worried about carbon dioxide, you should definitely have your eyes on methane. UC Berkeley in 2018 our landfill waste was responsible for 571 metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions. So that is very much our impact that we can directly have an effect on. UC Berkeley's diversion rate of things that can be composted or recycled is currently at 54%, but it would be over 80% if all organic materials were going into our composting bins rather than in landfill. So that's literally greenhouse gases that are being created just by our personal actions of what we're deciding to put into what bin every single day. So an action item you can take away from this is either to start composting religiously if you're not, but also to educate your coworkers, your students, your friends, your faculty, and to push for an increase in education and legislation that's going to get this composting infrastructure throughout the state of California and worldwide. So, and to have an even bigger impact, a lot of people usually ask, like, does this really matter? What kind of impact can this really have on a large scale? Well, for every pound of garbage you generate, about 7 pounds of waste are produced upstream in the manufacturing process. So the weight of this iPhone, well, electronics are a little bit different. Electronics, the scale is quite a bit bigger. It's about 30 times more waste because of the amount of dirt you have to move for mining, the discards that are created in the manufacturing process. So by refusing to use resources, refusing to take paper napkins, refusing to buy a new phone, refusing, you can have a huge impact on the entire production chain. So there's the curriculum. At the same time I started teaching this class, I began working for Kira as a Carbon Neutrality Initiative Fellow. The CNI Student Fellowship Program exists to fund student-generated projects that support our goal of zero net carbon emissions, like on-campus biodigesters and closed-loop composting systems. And so they do some of those things at like UC Davis. So it's a UC-wide initiative. But it also exists to engage the campus populations because it remains impossible to accomplish a campus-wide goal without an informed and educated campus community. So we as CNI fellows are the face and force behind the Carbon Neutrality Initiative, and most particularly the Cool Campus Challenge. As for the month of April, our sole job is pretty much engagement. And I think we have a really good shot at reaching the most people to get involved and to take carbon actions, aka winning, because we have a very unique environmental community on campus that I think is singular out of all the UC campuses, and most especially because of initiatives like the one that Dante has taken with Carbon Crew. Dante recently established this team of people who are he's going to talk about it, who are going to be helping us to do outreach for the entire month of April to get as many people engaged in pledging and taking actions to reduce their carbon footprint as possible. And he has very graciously welcomed me to join him in leading Carbon Crew. So I will give my time to him so that he can explain it a little while.
Thank you. Is this live? Awesome. Okay. So hi, my name is Dante Gonzalez. I am a third year here at Cal studying society and environment and getting a minor in conservation and resource studies. So my project I am a Carbon Neutrality Initiative Engagement Fellow. So what does that mean? So UCOP essentially gives me two guidelines. I have to create a climate justice panel, and I have to promote the Cool Campus Challenge. And so what did I do, being the overachiever? I created a full team and tried to do the most. And so through the purview of Sharon and the Student Environmental Resource Center, I actually formed a programs team called Carbon Crew. So this was founded actually in fall 2018, so it's very new. And what we essentially did is we split up into three different teams. One, food team, our campus engagement team, and our core team, which is the CO2 reductions and education team. And so what we're all working to is a diversified approach to carbon neutrality. So our food team. So this is the real jewel of my team, honestly, because what we're trying to do is essentially not only change behavioral, not only make behavioral change for our students, faculty, and staff here on campus, but also trying to take on the institution that is Cal Dining in making more sustainable practices. So what our main goal is to change outdated vegan and vegetarian recipes in the Cal Dining menu cycle with some new, fresh, tasty, and less carbon-intensive choices. So what we have in a plate side here, so currently our current trajectory with house students and people who do eat at these dining halls, they eat a meat main with a plant side and a grain side. And so what we're trying to do on the behavioral level is switch it towards a plant-made, a better meat side, and a plant side. Essentially what this is doing is not only reducing greenhouse gas emissions, which works towards our carbon neutrality goal, but also promoting a healthier lifestyle within our dining halls. So these are some pretty staggering statistics. So in terms of pounds of protein, just in the matter of, I thought this was only a year in Cal Dining, which kind of eased my mind a little, but we have just been updated that this is only 2 months. So in terms of beef, we actually consume about 129,000 pounds of beef in the matter of 2 months in our dining halls. 94,000 pounds of dairy, 357,000 pounds of poultry, 100,000 pounds of eggs, 75,000 pounds of pork. This is just in the matter of 2 months across, I believe, 4 dining hall institutions. And so we see this as a really big institutional change in which we want to tackle. And in terms of our metrics for the Carbon Neutrality Initiative, we are looking at our greenhouse gas emissions, which come in the form of pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent. So for beef alone, that's 3.5 million pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent in the matter of 2 months. Dairy, that's about 500,000. Poultry, 1.2 million, 500,000 for eggs, 500,000 for pork. So all we're seeing right here really is a huge tackle. That's something that we take from 2 months, bring it out to a full academic year, and we're looking at almost 4 to 5 times these numbers. And so what we're trying to do is essentially shift not only the culture on a personal and individual level, but also trying to promote nuts and seeds, beans and legumes from local and also sustainable and just practices. One of the other things that we're also trying to do in coordination with Sam LeBau, who is our sustainability coordinator at Cal Dining, is trying to shift the Cal Dining goals. So one of the big goals that we're really trying to shift is is that we try to get our food from local sources. But unfortunately, our practices, just given the economy of this dining hall, is that we try to look for local sources that are very cheap, which means that currently we are actually taking our meat products from a CAFO. So just because that it is locally sourced, it falls under that guideline of producing locally sourced food, and we are actually sustaining our meat production on CAFO, which is essentially, you see all those scary pictures of farm animals being put in cages and stuff like that. That's exactly how this CAFO operates. So we actually have some amazing dishes. How our sampling events work, we give our awesome chefs, who typically are pumping out this menu cycle over and over and over again. They get the same ingredients, they get the same foods, and they just mix and match it over and over again. So what we do is we actually just give them 2 plant-forward ingredients, and we allow them to just use their creative sources and use what they came here to do, which is to cook some awesome food. So here we see, which was actually made by our chef Murray from Foothill in the top left corner, we have rainbow carrots and daikon with a tahini dressing. On our bottom left, this was from Chef Marcos from Crossroads, who made a mung beans and bok choy 2 ways. In the middle, we're actually going to be tackling our breakfast menu cycle, which our Chef Larry from Clark Kerr made a sunchoke au gratin with collard greens on the bottom. Top right, we have Chef Mary from Clark Kerr as well too, which is a tomato curry sauce with roasted romanesco, spaghetti squash, and caviar lentils. And then on the bottom, we have actually a daikon and rainbow carrot cake with a ponzu sauce and rainbow carrot shavings. So not only is this making me currently hungry, but also we essentially get these students to try our dishes and we get surveys back from them. So only with these 7 events, we've reached to about 750 to 800 students. And from these metrics, we've actually gotten 93% of them saying that they want more plant-forward dishes in the dining halls. 50% of these people are eating them for the health effects, but 25% of them are actually eating them for reduced environmental impact. So we know that this culture, students are coming into these dining halls knowing that they want to make these impacts. We have also found a really shocking statistic too in saying that about 78% of the students that do eat in these dining halls find it somewhat hard to very hard to actually eat healthy consistently in our dining halls. And so what we're also trying to do is not only just create some awesome, just really good looking food, but also some just really nutritious and healthy food to sustain our students. So my next team, core team, which is the CO2 reduction and education team, this is our team that actually operates more on a community-based level. And so we actually reach out to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools in our local BUSD and OUSD districts, and essentially just teach environmental lessons. And so this picture actually up here, we got to teach a air pollution, environmental justice kind of intersectional lesson to 25 awesome third graders. And what we're really trying to do is just continue this era of creating environmental activism and also passing down this institutional knowledge from us to the next generation. And this generation is going to be essentially taking on the burden of all these problems that we've created right now. So equipping them not only with this knowledge, but also empowering them with the tools and how to fight back is extremely important. So my campus engagement team, what our main goal is to educate our campus community about the Carbon Neutrality Initiative and also how to get involved into how to make this process is. So a big thing that we actually notice is that students, as Sage had mentioned, we know that this is a problem. We see it every day in our lives, we live it in our lives, but how do we get involved? So by tabling events, we have photo campaigns, we hold panels, a bunch of other events. We essentially are trying to engage the broader campus community outside of our environmental niche with what our Carbon Neutrality Initiative goals are. So one of the really important things to us is just visibility. So we started actually a photo campaign called What Carbon Neutrality Means to Me. And we actually have about 50 pictures from just students who came up to our tabling event, said they have a connection to carbon neutrality. And this can range from fighting for the next generation, fighting for cleaner air, fighting for environmental justice, a bunch of different things in which we find personally to this carbon neutrality initiative. So one of the biggest things that our campus engagement team is going to be doing is rolling out the Cool Campus Challenge. So in 2015, this was only a 10-week program, and Berkeley actually scored 7th in terms of points out of 10, which is not very good. So as the #1 public university in the world, we obviously want to be the #1 coolest campus here. And so one of the big things that we're going to be doing is revolutionizing what we think about how carbon neutrality can be achieved. And this is also more on just the behavioral and individual level, but we do encourage you all to form teams, make it competitive. And we're actually going to be offering up for RSOs cash prizes and visual prizes. We're going to be offering up solar chargers, gift cards, all that stuff to really just kind of get the movement on into becoming the coolest campus out there. So we're going to actually take a direct action item today. So if any of y'all have your laptop or phone, if you could all log on to www.coolcampuschallenge.org right now /signup, we can actually just get you involved and part of this platform just right now. So essentially what we're going to be doing, you won't have access to the platform after you sign up until April 1st. And what you're going to be getting is daily challenges as well as weekly challenges for you to take on an individual level. And we want this to really be fun. So what we're trying to reach out to our staff members here, given that you are a part of our institutions, can create some awesome change on an institutional level, is we want you to have fun with your office workers. Your office mates inside your office environment, getting together, taking pictures together. You can get bonus points for writing about it, how it personally affects you. You can get bonus points for taking pictures of your action items, and that can vary from like turning off the lights, using natural light, dressing for the weather, reducing your heater, stuff like that. And so from April 1st to April 26th, all of these points are going to be aggregated towards the UC Berkeley campus. And how this works, we get ranked on 2 different metrics. One, number of participants. So definitely tell your office mates, anybody you would know that has a Berkeley email address can interact with this challenge. And then 2, we also get ranked on total points. So obviously updating every day, checking that platform. What can I do today? This can be something from 100 points to 500 points, and it can also go across weekly challenges as well. So yeah, and we do really encourage just you to stay involved. We are going to be having several platforms. Trust me, you're going to see my face I'm going to be on top of y'all to get these platforms up. And we really just hope to have this not only interact with our staff, but also just having a really collaborative environment and building a bridge between our students, our faculty, and our staff towards this one goal of achieving carbon neutrality. So yeah, let's all become the coolest campus. There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all, and thank you, Sage and Dante. I'm inspired every day by you, so appreciate it. We do have a minute or a few minutes if anyone had any questions for us or anything else we can provide. Karen?
Hi. Can you explain the what biogas is, and can you also tell us a little bit about how you purchase offsets?
Ooh, two big topics. Okay, so biogas can be created in a variety of ways. Currently, what we're looking at UC is the UC system is looking to develop several biogas opportunities. One has been capping a landfill in, I believe it's Louisiana. So in California, we've capped a lot of our landfills so that we're capturing some of the methane that's being released and then turning that into power. In some other parts of the country, not all the landfills are capped. So that's one project. So so they'll be capping the methane. It'll be being produced into the biogas, and the biogas will then be injected into the natural gas system in the U.S. So in a sense, it's an offset project. We don't think any of that biogas that we may be developing or may being able to purchase from other developers will actually come to the campus. I suppose it could, but it's not a direct relation. Carbon offset's quite similar. So we are looking right now, there's a lot of interest around carbon offsets, and that if we're going to do that we're making really important choices around what we're investing in terms of projects. So you'll probably be seeing, actually, in the next week or two, there's going to be a request for ideas going out to the UC system, to researchers, staff, students, for their ideas for UC-generated carbon offset projects that we might do in the community, or it might be somewhere around the globe. So, there's a lot of work in that area. And I'm seeing that we are actually getting very close to one, so I appreciate that question. If we need to wrap up. We were sending around a sign-up sheet. What we're going to do, and since we're out of time, we have a little raffle we're going to do, and we'll get a hold of you afterwards with some cool campus challenge gifts. So thank you, and let's go fight climate change.
Well, thank you so much, Kira, Dante, and Sage, for bringing this to our audience. I'm Angela Stopper, the Chief Learning Officer here on campus, and on behalf of Staff Learning and Development and all of Central HR and our Employee Experience Lead, James Dudek, I just want to really say we really appreciate you and all the work that you're doing, and appreciate all of you who are here with us today and who are watching. I know I got some great nuggets from the conversation. I hope you all did too. Number one, figure out this composting thing and make sure we do it. Don't put more methane into the world than we need to. You see the composting bins all over. Use them, right? And call out people that don't. Mm-hmm. Did I hear that? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And let's work to make Berkeley the coolest campus in the system. So thank you for bringing us that. Thank you for all the work you do. Thank you to everyone for all the work that you do to make Berkeley already the coolest campus on the planet. Now we just need to get the award. Get it official. So thank you so much. Just